All right, everybody. It's draft week. The 2021 draft is finally, coming close to being here. And you guys know, every time we talk draft, every time we get into draft, we have to bring in some of the best experts out there on the internet. And one of the best draft experts, internet, TV, wherever you like to find them, Voch Lombardi. I have the pleasure of having him here. How you doing, Voch?
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? I just want to say, first and foremost, congratulations, because every time I'm talking to Browns fans, we talking about some top 10 people. We get the draft in the 20s now, so shouts out to y'all.
Yeah, it's great. We're flipping positions in the draft, I guess. Normally the Cowboys are up there in the late 20s, and we're at top 10 talking about Kyle Pitts. But
we ain't gonna talk about that today. We talking about 20 wherever y'all at. We 24, 25, 26,
26, yeah.
26. Great spot to talk about today. Let's do it.
Let's do it, definitely. So when you look at this draft, right, because of the pandemic, you have opt-outs, you have lack of tape on a lot of the FCS guys because those guys just don't have tape for this year. A lot of those schools opt out for a spring season. And you have, all these factors that come in, right? All the virtual stuff, no combine. As an evaluator, how does this make it different for you to look at these guys, engage these guys, or how do you feel like it would be different for evaluators to look at these guys and engage these guys and really know where people are going to land this year?
Viewer discretion. It comes down to the film watcher and the film evaluator. And I think that this draft is going to look interesting because that's the only tool that we really have. We don't have combine this year. Some tape is missing, so you're really going to have to dig into your film. What I tell people all the time is we can't just assume that just because they get paid big money that every team is going to draft well. The reality is teams suck at this, right? So if they suck in a regular year with all the resources, just imagine how crazy it's going to be this year with a lack of. So it just depends on who you are as a film evaluator, as a player evaluator. So, are you floor guy? Are you ceiling guy? Do you like what you can see today, or do you like the upside of a player? If you take a look at cornerbacks, right? So Pat Surtain, right? He played football this year, but he didn't have to play football this year because we know exactly who Pat Surtain is, right? Mm-hmm. If he would have opted out, we know who he is. Caleb Farley is a guy that really could have used some football this year because, he's talented. He has the athleticism. He has catch-up speed and all this good stuff. But if you're running a 9 route and he's running he's going to catch up with because he has top-tier speed, but he has no clue how to play corner, so he doesn't understand spacing. He doesn't understand which hip to be in. He doesn't understand looking back for the football. So what happens is he's just going to be faster than you. He's going to run into you and get pass interference calls. Watch the Miami game. Watch the Carolina game. It's many examples of that. So you just got to, weigh what's important to you. So even if we're looking at offensive line, right, just another example, so Penei Sewell, and then we got Rashawn Slater, right? So one guy is floor guy, one guy is ceiling guy. Both didn't play football this year. I look at, Sewell and go, okay, well, he's athletic, he's big, he's naturally talented, but he has technique issues, right? He has foot issues, probably, can work on his hands and things of that nature. But everything that Sewell has to get better at, Rashawn Slater is good at right now. Plus, Rashawn Slater got this big blaring light on his film called I Whoop Chase Young. You know what I mean? So I know what Rashawn Slater is. He didn't need 2020 film. I could have used another year of Sewell. So when you're watching film on guys like that, it's all about what you need more of. And some dudes. Greg Rousseau is another example, right? 15 sacks his redshirt freshman year. I think he's pretty bad, but he decided to not play football this year. If you wanted to really prove Voch wrong and me to say sorry to you, you play football in 2020. Everybody had their own decision with the whole COVID thing. So shouts out to you for making your own decision. That's a business decision. In a player football evaluation decision, you should have played football so I can see what you got. But that's your business, Playboy. Go ahead.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things too is that pro days, right? They've gotten more important, but also there's issues with pro days, right? There's only going to be one team at a pro day. And do you foresee something since Alabama, right? If you go to Alabama pro day, there's going to be somebody for you at Alabama's pro day that you want to look at, you want to get your eyes on. But maybe if you're a prospect coming out of a smaller school, Darius Leonard went to a HBCU, so only scouts are coming there to see him. Is that going to be a factor when it's like teams aren't really going to send their top scouts to some of these smaller places that really only got one player they're looking at? And is that going to lead to some really good players getting overlooked in this draft?
Viewer discretion in my little world, and I think I'm pretty good at this, as humbly as I could possibly say it. I don't look at pro days at all. I care nothing about them. If anything, I look at them as a reason to go back and look at a guy. So if Jason Oweh, the DN from Penn State, if he runs 4.39, if anything, I'll just go back and look at the film and be like, where do I see 4.39 at? I'm not going back to be like, oh well, he's running 4.39. I'm drafting him off that 4.39 alone. Some teams suck at this now, so they'll draft him off 4.39 alone. But I use that as an excuse to go back and look. So the biggest tools for me is film and Senior Bowl. And Senior Bowl is huge because it's damn film, basically. So we talking about the guys from the little schools, Quinn Miners from Wisconsin Whitewater. I'm not a big fan of his, but people seem to be big fans of his. So if you want to use Senior Bowl as a measurement to look at him, cool. A guy that I'm a big fan of, Dylan Radunes, North Dakota State. His 2019 film wasn't that great, and he needed Senior Bowl. Him and Northern Iowa defensive end. I'm blanking. Smith. I can't catch it right now, but small school guy, right? And when you watch 2019 film, they don't look that great. They look small. They look like small school guys, right? But Dylan Radunes kind of shows up at the Senior Bowl. He looks a little bigger, looks a little more swole, and you can tell by the matchups that the other guys are going comparative to his matchups. I kind of like Dylan Radunes a little bit. For example, Leatherwood from Alabama, he was getting whooped by Roche from Miami. I'm like, why is Quincy Roche just smoking the hell out of Leatherwood like this? All right, cool. Move Leatherwood on. Dylan Radunes lines up against the same Roche that Leatherwood just lined up against, and Dylan Radunes is smoking Roche. So now in my mind, I can trust Dylan Radunes. Little bitty school dude, but I can trust him. Ellison Smith, that's his name. Pardon me. Ellison Smith from Northern Iowa. He's a dude that I didn't like his film. He actually played against Dylan Radunes, and I hated them both at the same exact time going against each other. But when I watch Ellison versus these top 10 guys, right? These Bama dudes, these Penn State dudes, you know what I mean? Like when I'm seeing them against the Notre Dame kids, I go, man, I can respect Ellison Smith doing this now. And there's nothing that his pro day can do that's bigger than watching Ellison beat people. That's watching Dylan Radunes beat people. From Grambling, David Moore, center, watching David Moore beat people. So it all comes down to film and the discretion of the viewer.
Definitely. So let's kind of pivot to some of the players in this draft. I think there are a couple of interesting players that kind of have jumped up and down where people expect them to be. One of the more interesting players I've been talking about is Devonta Smith, the wide receiver out of Alabama. A lot of injury concerns about him, but this is a guy who played 47 games at Alabama, never got hurt, but is light, so people are worried about the injury history. How do teams really evaluate this when it's like, okay, you got Jalen Waddle, who definitely got injured at Alabama. You have Jamar Chase, who no tape for this year, and then you have Devonta Smith, who won the Heisman. They're all pretty much the same height. How is it that you're gonna kind of split these hairs when they get this fine at the wide receiving class at the top of it when the information is limited?
Just don't listen to teams because they suck at this, right? And listen, everybody listening, right? Why should I listen to some YouTuber, right? You could say that about me. But if you look at how the Packers and the Raiders been drafted, why would you listen to their ass either? You know what I mean? So you just got to pick who you want to trust right now. And, think about Devonta Smith. There's this new theme that I'm going with this year. I always have a theme every draft year. This year is don't talk yourself out of a good player. Right. If we looking at Kyle Pitts or something and you say, well, Kyle Pitts is not a top tier blocker. He's a good blocker, but he's not a top tier blocker. So how can I trust Kyle Pitts? Okay, but you don't ask Zach Wilson to run like Cam Newton. Don't ask players to don't think about what they can't do. Think about what players can do for you, right? So I look at Devonta Smith. I never seen Devonta Smith having problems getting off press coverage. Why? Because he's a nuanced route runner. He has long arms. He's physical. Like he's 166, but have you seen him block? Yeah, because he's coached well to block. That's the Alabama thing, right? They all block. So, if you are saying bad things about Devonta Smith, you're making them up. And if he can do that at 166, when you get to the National Football League, they're going to give you this natural peanut butter, the Michael Jordan stuff that was in the bottle Bugs Bunny had. You just got good, what I'm saying? That stuff, and you just get 10 pounds bigger out of nowhere. Devonta Smith is going to end up about 175, 180 or so, and it's all going to be functional weight. But don't make a problem that doesn't exist. If you don't see, if you didn't see not JC Horn, but if you didn't see like Kelvin Joseph jam up Devonta Smith at the line of scrimmage, like a pure example of Smith going versus another pro. You watch him versus all these corners, the top corners in the whole nation, college football, right? If you see Devonta Smith not having problems with those guys, why would you think he'll have a problem when he gets to the next level? Now, of course, the league is different than college, but Devonta Smith ain't going to be the same dude forever. He's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. He's going to get, better with the nuances of the game or whatnot, lifting weights and all that kind of stuff. So why wouldn't you think that he would evolve like the game has evolved? You're talking yourself out of a bad player. He's my number one receiver, just from a route running perspective, from high pointing the football, from hands, from getting open, from IQ, all that good stuff. I love Jamar Chase, but I just see Devonta Smith being more functional moving on to the next level. Now, if Jamar Chase goes to, the Bengals or something, and him and Joe Burrow get that magical thing going that they had again, then fine. But as of now, Devonta Smith is my number one guy.
Definitely. And speaking of wide receiver, I think that's an area where a lot of people kind of agree that's going to be a deep part of this class. Which position groups do you think are deep in this class, or which position groups do you think are lacking as well?
Viewer discretion. It depends on how far you look, right? Because I was doing the radio the other day and some dude was like, this draft, who cares outside of the top 10? And I was like, fam, I'm like 150 something players in, and I got guys that I like, you know what I mean? So it just depends on how far you want to go down this thing. So if you're looking at edge guys or whatever, I can find you a 5th round edge guy, Jackson from Coastal Carolina. You want to look at either one of the UAB kids, Florida State kids, whichever one you want to, however deep you want to go, there's a guy for you at every level. Now, there's no elite guys this year, so that's something that we really got to have a conversation about, right? In terms of defense, there's no Chase Young this year. There's no Jalen Ramsey. The Bosa kids don't exist this year. So what you have is a bunch of dudes between pick 13, that's too far. Pick 19 all the way to pick 50 something, right? There's a bunch of dudes that just bunched in there that you could like Azeez Ojulari from Georgia, Boogie Basham from Wake Forest, Kwity Paye from Michigan, right? Depending on what somebody may like or dislike, he could fall, he could go first. We just don't have a clear consensus order on these guys. So I like edge guys this year. I like corner this year. Wide receivers fine at the top. I love offensive line every year. So, of course, I'm going to put on for offensive line all up and down the draft. So, it just depends on what you're looking for and how deep you want to look.
Definitely. All right. We talked about the depth of the draft. When we get back to part 2 of this interview, we're going to talk to Voch about what the Browns should do at 26. So, make sure you don't miss that. Make sure you subscribe. Also, make sure you subscribe to Voch Lombardi, man. Voch, tell them where to find you. VochLombardi. Most of what I'm saying about these players, I've backed it up and proved it in some video on my YouTube channel, and follow me on Twitter as well, where I'm talking the same kind of mess that I would talk on my channel. Salute. Definitely check them out.